West.
Here.
Council President Akkerval.
Here.
Councilor Lehan.
Here.
Mayor Knapp.
Here. Would the audience please rise and join us in a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I'm open to a motion on order of agenda. Please, the council.
Your Honor, I move to approve the order of agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, we approve order of agenda. There are copies on the counter at the side of the room if anyone would like to have one and who does not. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and passes 4-0. Bringing us to citizens input and community announcements, which is an opportunity for visitors to address council on things that are not on the agenda. Also a time to address things that are on the agenda but not scheduled for a formal public hearing. Staff and council will make every effort to respond to questions raised during this portion, either before tonight's meeting ends or as soon as possible thereafter. We do ask you to hold your comments to 3 minutes, and we've got a little green, yellow, red light system to help you follow that timetable. I do have a variety of speaker cards here. If there's anyone else that would like to speak in this portion, please complete a speaker card from the counter and pass it forward to the city recorder, who will get it up to me here. There's a variety of people that are talking on related issues. I understand Mr. Screen would like to lead off, so please come forward.
On behalf of myself, my wife, and my neighbors.
Okay, we need to have you speak into the microphone, or people at home are only going to be seeing your mouth move and not hearing anything.
Not used to that either. On behalf of myself, my neighbors, my wife, Meadows Court, we want to thank you for the opportunity to address our concerns in front of the council. Briefly, we have a parking problem in our neighborhood. The Meadows Court has become an overflow parking lot for the high school due to lack of parking, I guess, there, and more students driving to school. And so what's happened is they're parking anywhere and everywhere, blocking fire hydrants, blocking driveways, sometimes parked 3 or more feet from the curb, and it's sometimes in the wrong direction. And so now they take every available space in our cul-de-sac and along Meadows Loop between the parkway and the high school. And so we've lived here for 18 years, and there's always been a little bit of a parking issue at night for all the people that come home and park along that stretch, but we don't travel as much at night, and that's never been that much of an issue. Those people would leave to go to work in the morning, and it would be quite easy to navigate our street. Now all those spaces are filled by high school students that are coming to school. And as we leave our cul-de-sac, they're parked on both sides of the cul-de-sac, and there's some photos in the packets that I handed out there that show some of the parking. They're parked on both sides of the entrance, and so it leaves one lane to get in and out. They're parked right up next to the edge of Meadows Loop on either side, so it's very difficult to get out of the cul-de-sac. And then Meadows Loop, of course, curves in both directions going in and out of our cul-de-sac, making it even more difficult to time it just right. So I've got in their packet also a description of the problem, which I'm kind of glancing over, as well as some restrictions that we would like to see. And so in short, we're hoping we can get, if it please the council, parking by permit only in the cul-de-sac, and maybe parking only on one side of Meadows Loop from Meadows Parkway, which, by the way, only allows parking on one side of the street, down to Meadows, to Wilsonville Road. There's also a lot of commercial vehicles parked here and there and everywhere, and they're only allowed, I think, 3 days, but they just move their vehicles or park in a different spot each time, and so they kind of game the system a little bit in that respect. So I'm sure some of my neighbors have other things to add, but my 3 minutes are probably up.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jill Moore, please.
Hi, my name is Jill Moore. Thank you for hearing our concern tonight. My husband and I have been a resident in the Mount Meadows area for 18 years now, and the traffic problem is just getting worse and worse and worse. My big concern is it's a safety issue. There are times when there's no way a fire truck could be able to get into our cul-de-sac because there are cars parked such that I can barely get out with my own car. So for safety vehicles, people park in front of the hydrants. Also, there's a park just around the corner from us, and it is a huge safety issue with cars parked on both sides of the street there. I don't know how many times I've seen kids running out from the park between the cars, and there is no visibility as far as seeing when kids are coming across from the park back to the apartments or crossing the street. And I know it's just a matter of time that someone is going to get injured. So for all these safety concerns, I hope that someone will be able to help the parking problem on our street. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob Bynum.
Hi, I guess for the record, I'm Rob Bynum. Thank you for listening to us today. I'll reiterate the things that Jill and Keith stated, but I just want to say I've lived on the block or in the cul-de-sac for the last 4 years. I have two kids who recently graduated from Wilsonville High School, learned how to drive through the neighborhood there, and so can kind of speak from maybe perhaps a slightly different perspective in knowing the challenges of having a young driver. And as best as a parent can do in teaching them the right way to drive, there's a very little margin for error in that corner. And especially during the day, that's the main classification of driver that's going to be in that loop. During the daytime, it is just, if somebody is following the speed limit, it is just too narrow. Plus, when you think about the high traffic times in schools getting in and out, and you have students and young children coming to and from the apartment complex, it's just, there's a high degree of, during the spikes of traffic, you also have a spike of young, pedestrians, I guess. So I agree with what Jill said. I don't think that it's a question of if, but of when, if we don't do something about this. I fully support that we should narrow the parking to one side of the street, and perhaps even consider adjusting the speed limit for that corner, because the parking on both sides, especially at the prescribed speed limit, is just, it's far too much. I'll just limit it to that. So.
All right, thanks very much. Joseph Moore? Moore. Okay.
So Jill wasn't quite right. We've lived there for 20 years. We came in 99. So one of the things, early on, you actually did put some parking things in place. I didn't bring 6 copies, though. But it used to be no parking sign, and half of it is still there, but you removed the other half. It points and says no parking and around from 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. to try to reduce that kind of apartment people parking over there. And nobody notified us, but all of a sudden the sign disappeared. So the city decided to remove half of the signage there. So I think that's a little strange, so maybe we could talk to traffic about that. My wife's statement about the fire trucks not getting through, it's not our imagination. About 7 years ago or 10 years ago, I didn't know firemen could tow cars, but they came through and they had the cars towed because they were parked right by where the fire hydrant was, and you couldn't get a fire truck through. So again, safety issue. There's also garbage trucks are very wide. And so we just want to go and make sure people are safe. I worry, I go really slow coming off right by the high school, because when I see the kids running across from the park, I don't want to come and tell you about how I hit somebody. And I want you to save me from that. And so if you can go and do something about it. Ben came to our house when he was trying to get elected. Ben, I thank you, and you said that you wanted to go and help us with this. So I am charging you with following through on this campaign promise that helped get you elected to go and to help us so that we don't hurt anyone.
I hear you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. James Lash.
All right. Good evening, City Council. As you've heard from my neighbors, again, I'm James Lash. I live at 29145 Southwest Meadows Loop, the house right on the corner as you come out of Meadows Court. Which my neighbor doesn't know is we had a gentleman move in about 2 or 3 years ago. One person who didn't live in the block who complained about the parking. And they asked the city council, city parking office, you know, is this a safety issue or what? They asked the housing neighborhood. Nobody asked us who lived down there. That's a problem. You need to ask the constituents who live in the area, not people who live a mile down the road. Now, like everybody's addressing safety, my wife, my children, I have 2 kids that recently graduated high school. They back out of my driveway. It's just a matter of when. When are they going to get T-boned coming out of there at 7:30 in the morning? All right, and it's a sad sight. If somebody would come and just park, I charge you to park in my driveway and watch. And you would agree with everything that's been said today. There's a serious safety issue. The children playing in the park. What's the difference between Meadows Loop and Meadows Parkway? Meadows Loop is not as wide as the Parkway, but we have cars parked on both sides of the street. All right, and there's supposed to be no parking 25 feet from a curb. You come out of the courtway and you have cars parked, hanging into the courtway, hanging in my driveway. What are we supposed to do? Thank you.
Thank you. Jory Screen, please.
Hi, I'm Jory Screen, and I too just want to thank you guys for volunteering and doing this kind of thing so that we can come here and complain to you. So I think most of these things have already been brought up, but I just want to bring up that I have grandchildren that come and to my home, and there's no parking for friends of ours to come, you know, other than in our driveways if we have friends come during the day. My grandkids, there's not even room for them to play because there's cars parked all over the cul-de-sac, people throwing trash and leaving their trash, you know, high school students, there's no trash cans in our cul-de-sac, so they just leave it on the streets. I get up every morning and I leave the cul-de-sac in the morning at about 6 o'clock. When I'm leaving the cul-de-sac in the morning, when there's no traffic, I have to pull out at least halfway in the intersection before I can even see whether I can go. And by that time, it's, you know, if there's somebody there, it's just, like everybody has said, it is just a matter of time. And there's usually people parked in the no parking area, but the police can't come every day and patrol it, and I get it. We've talked to so many policemen that have come, and they're very good, but they've said, go to your city council because we can't do anything about it. They've given many tickets to high school students, and so I'm hoping that they're going to get the message. We've talked to the garbage truck people, and they say it's very tight, that they can hardly get in there for the trash collection. And also another problem we have is on the trash collection days, we have our garbage cans out there. They can hardly even get to our garbage cans. And and also the emergency vehicle issue. And the students are parking there all day from, 8 to 3 p.m. They park in front of fire hydrants all over the neighborhood. I really don't know how that can be allowed. I mean, it's against the law, and, they park in front of our mailbox, so we can't get our mail. We have to pull off to the side of the street or walk to get our mail. So just a few more things to add to the list, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Sue Bynum, please.
So much of what I would like to say has already been said, so to save everyone's time, the main thing that really concerns me is the fire hydrant parking in front of it, and also I realized that a fire truck cannot get into our cul-de-sac during the day if there was a fire. And so with all of the houses there, that is unacceptable situation. I think that needs to be addressed. But I think everyone has pretty much stated what I wanted to say clearly. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, don't have any further speaker cards. Is there anyone else that had wanted to speak that has not submitted a speaker card at this point? We've had a pretty clear presentation of concerns. Mr. Cosgrove, is this something that we can ask staff to look into a little bit? And
Yeah, I mean, this is not a new issue. So I know that there's memos going back to at least 2015. So I'm gonna have to review this and talk with the engineering department. There's a memo that I was handed today that was, looks like it was done on June 12th that I haven't reviewed yet. So I'll review that and I'll report back to council and figure out what solutions. If this is a high school problem, maybe a conversation with the high school administration as well to see what kind of solutions they might have available. In terms of parking in front of a fire hydrant, I can tell you that if there's a fire and your car is parked in front of a fire hydrant, that your driver's side window and your passenger side window will be knocked out and that fire hose will go right through it. So there will be no issues in terms of getting to that fire hydrant. We also have stepped up enforcement in the neighborhood. I have also the code enforcement officer is deputized to write citations, so he's going to be patrolling that area as well. We have these issues all over the city, and we've had requests for parking zones that we have 2 that we've said yes to for different reasons. And so we can revisit that as well. So I would say everything is on the table right now, but in terms of trying to figure out, I don't think we want to get to the point where we're just turning over public streets to private use. I think the one in Meadows we have right now is time restricted, and the other one that we have in Brenchley is 24/7 because they have very limited on-street parking and they were having some very serious issues. So there's a lot of things that we can bring to bear here, but we'll start off with the least obtrusive. How's that?
Yeah, well, we need to see what we can do to have an effect would be, of course, what the citizens are looking for here. Is Mr. Screen the right contact to receive? Would that be reasonable? You could coordinate back with him a little bit too so that he can talk to his...
Is Mr. Screen part of the HOA? I mean, I'm sorry.
Officer?
Are you an officer of the HOA? Okay. Yeah, we could, if you want to be the point person for this discussion, we have your information. I'm assuming you put your address and phone number.
It's all here, phone number. And
we will, city recorder, remind me that you were the person that we will communicate with.
Great, thank you.
And then we would ask you to communicate with your fellow neighbors. Okay, great.
All right.
Can I just ask a question or make a comment? I don't know which it is, but I thought this was a very, very good presentation, very well organized, and it would seem to me that the other body that you might consider presenting to is the high school student council. I mean,
or the school board.
These are drivers.
Yeah.
And we can't just have all of us be talking with the school administrators and ignore that they have a governing body of students, and they are, very clear, very close to being adults and responsible, and they should hear this kind of concern in the neighborhood and what the issues are, and be asked to step up with solutions as well. Not just we have to come up with them or the school board or the principal does, but I think that it would be a good learning experience for the students as well, if that indeed is where the issues are coming from, and how could they, what would they suggest to solve this issue?
Good recommendation.
Comment if I may.
No, we can't talk from the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you maybe have that discussion with Mr. Cosgrove afterwards, or get together, that would be certainly one of the avenues we could utilize to approach this.
Be a
Mr.
community
Screen,
process.
There's a young lady in the back, her name is Zoe Monahan. And if you have additional questions, she can go out in the hallway, and then we can make sure
She
that we
looks
respond
different
to
than
those
she used
tomorrow.
to.
Okay.
Okay. Monahan. Councilor West, did you have a?
Yeah, also a quick comment is, I remember very clearly what I saw when I was walking that neighborhood. Not only was it traffic, but the cars fly down that street. At an alarmingly noticeable rate. And I think that Councilor Lehan has a great idea by engaging the high school, engaging the students as one step, but I hope that we take a really multifaceted step to deal and address the problem quickly that is good for all people. But I can totally attest to this, that not only was the presentation spot on and accurate, but I've seen it firsthand myself. And I didn't quite understand or have any grasp of like what it was like until I was spending quite a few days down there. Yeah, I hope we can get to the resolution. I hear you guys. And Jeff, I want to thank you also for reaching out to email. I think you re-emailed us council members individually, and we've been talking and communicating to also. So I hope we can figure something else. And please feel free to contact all of us. I know we all want to hear from you on the council continuously about how these efforts are going and if you're satisfied.
Okay. All right. Thank you much for that. I don't have any other topics people want to speak on, so I think that we will move along then to the mayor's business. We have in front of us one committee appointment that I would like to recommend to you, and that is with regard to the Tourism Promotion Committee. We have a gentleman who is the what do I want to say? I think he's the manager of the World of Speed Museum that is interested in the tourism aspects of that. His name is Dave Pearson, and he is relatively new to that position, less than a year, but he has been participating in our Tourism Promotion Committee, and I would recommend to the council that we reappoint Mr. Pearson to a full term beginning July 1 this year and ending September 30 of 22, if it please the council.
Your Honor, I move to ratify the reappointment of Dave Pearson to the Tourism Promotion Committee for a term beginning 7/1/19 and ending 6/30/22.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any question or discussion on that? We did hear a Tourism Promotion Committee presentation at work session today, and it looks like there's quite a bit of activity going on there, and that he certainly is an asset in his position to have on that committee. That said, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye passes 4-0. So welcome back, Mr. Pearson. Summer has been flying by here. I don't know if I have all my different things going on that I can even report to you here. The T2020 Transportation Group at Metro continues its work. That is the group that is trying to come up with some proposal for a transportation ballot measure that would come in November of 2020 and likely would include a range of different transportation improvements throughout the metropolitan area. The most recent activity is that they have appointed individual county by county investment teams to look at some of the transportation projects that would be proposed along the already vetted corridors throughout the region and come back to the committee with information about what projects might have the biggest bang for the buck or the most immediate effect for inclusion in a proposed bond measure at that time. So that work is ongoing, and I know that they are doing a lot of tours out in the field. They're taking the groups actually out into the communities and into the region and driving down these corridors and actually getting out and saying, okay, now you try to cross the street here, and see how that works. I mean, see if there's disconnects in the pedestrian facilities and the bicycle and alternative mode facilities and the sidewalks and that sort of thing. And also, so it's not just about cars, it's also about alternative modes and about transit, and all of that is a huge project. So we'll have to see how that outcome goes. Let's see, I attended the Westside Economic Alliance a week or so ago. That was the first time they had the chair of each of the 3 counties, Multnomah County, Clackamas County, and Washington County there, along with the Metro President, Lynn Peterson, who did a discussion. There was lots of transportation discussion in that forum, but there was also quite a bit of discussion about the homeless issues throughout our counties and what activities the different counties are working on to try to address that. There was bond money that was approved for Metro, and Metro is working with the individual counties on ways to help facilitate housing in each of those counties. And also, I guess the larger cities, of course, Portland, but also Hillsborough and Gresham have their own housing authorities also, which we do not here. But there is work going on to try to determine the high value projects for addressing some of the homeless issues throughout the region on that basis also. So that's kind of a interesting and fairly high profile sort of address going on. I guess the last thing I would mention is that we had, I guess that was a while ago, the Kinder Morgan pipeline thing has pretty well been resolved. I think the council has heard about that. And the agreements with the pipeline owner to put automatic shutoff valve on the line that comes down through Wilsonville. And that work is supposed to be happening this summer. Ms. Jacobson, is that correct?
End of July, beginning of August.
So it's imminent that they will be doing that work. And they did have the emergency exercise here in town that brought together a lot of people to kind of look at coordination on a test basis. And the outcome of that was quite helpful also, I think, to city staff in understanding how these different agencies coordinate in the event that there is needed some kind of emergency response. So lots of things going on that way. I invite the council during your reports to mention any upcoming events that you would like to, especially between now and next council meeting. The upcoming council meeting, I guess, would be for August 5 already here in council chambers. And there's lots of things going on this summer in the meantime. So I will ask, I think, starting with Council President Akkerval.
Yeah. One event that's coming up soon is on the 20th. It's the Wilsonville Wellness Fair and Bike Rodeo. And I believe that's probably the 3rd year that they've done the Wellness Fair. 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Town Center Park. And the Bike Rodeo is here, City Hall parking lot. I also wanted to alert people that I recently heard that the sister city program to Kitakata, Japan, they host a delegation of students every other year that come from Kitakata. This year there's going to be 22 students coming, and they are still looking for some host families. And it's something that my family's done for the last, I think, 3 delegations, and it's really been a fun experience. And sometimes when I talk to other families, oh, you should consider that, you should think about that. It seems like a big commitment, but truthfully it is like a 9-day or a 10-day exchange trip. So it's a very finite period of time, and you welcome them into your home, and you don't have to do big productions because they have a very busy schedule during those 9-10 days. Where they're out visiting all different areas of the state and doing different activities. And so the rest of the time in the evenings or on the weekend when they are with your family, they're very interested in just seeing what your family is up to in the evenings and the weekends. So take them to a scout meeting or take them to soccer practice or bake chocolate chip cookies or whatever your normal activity would be with your family. And having traveled quite a bit myself and having been an exchange student myself, those are the interesting opportunities that you don't get as a normal tourist to a different country, is the ability to see those kinds of personal family interactions, and that can be really memorable and fun. So I hope you consider it, and if it is something that you're interested in, you can contact the 503-702-4568 that will have more information, and I think they're trying to tie up the host families very soon, so encourage you to reach out and think if that's something that you might be interested in, get some more information.
Thank you very much. Councilor Lehan.
Just a couple of upcoming things on the, excuse me, on the 30th of July. McMinimans has their history on the last Tuesday of the month, History Night, and this time it is on Rajneeshpuram, the history and collapse and all of that. And the person putting this on is Carl Abbott. And if any of you from Portland State know who Carl Abbott is, but he's a professor emeritus at Portland State and and very good speaker. And it will be well worth your time to hear his analysis and kind of the history and analysis of what happened with Rajneeshpuram and why the rationales for why it all came apart the way it did. Doors open at 5. The program begins at 6:30, but I expect this to be popular. So if you're not there by 5, you'll probably have to be standing room only. But it is free to attend, but of course you can order dinner and drinks and whatever all throughout the show. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is on the 31st, the Wednesday, the July 31st, and that is the NREC Community Open House. So that's NREC is the North Willamette Research and Extension Center, which is just south of Charbonneau, and on Miley Road there. It is the big ag, 160-acre ag research station. And they have their open house once a year. This is a fun family event. It's from 4 to 7, includes lots of berry and other fruit tasting opportunities to see which varieties you want to plant or which ones you want to buy. Lots of locally grown vegetables will be available for purchase. Plus they do farm tours and tractor driving. I'm not sure if you get to drive the tractors, but maybe, because they do tractor driving classes there for people 14 years old and older. So you can sign up for a 1-day or 2-day tractor driving class. But, so I don't know what all, but the thing says they will also have tractor driving. So I don't know what that means. Anyway, lots of exhibits, demonstrations and such at NREC. So that's 4 to 7 on the 31st. And I just wanted to say, I'll let Councillor West proceed, but it would be nice if we perhaps introduced our guests. Perhaps you have that in mind already.
Councillor West.
Well, I have been wrapped up in the last couple weeks in youth sports, and we are coming to the end of baseball season. In our household, we have a baseball player. My 13-year-old plays for Wilsonville's JBO team, and so there's a couple outstanding group of boys that had major accomplishments. So the Little League 13U program is fundraising to go to Arizona because they are the Oregon Little League 13U champions. And so they, yay, give them a round of applause. They're not here, but yes, we're so proud of them. But they are fundraising, right? I think down at Peppo's off this weekend, they were doing car washes and stuff, and they have a GoFundMe. But they're a great group of boys, amazing kids, great parents. And so the Little League, I may be misspeaking, but somewhere around 300 or 400 little boys and girls participate in Wilsonville's Little League program, which is a phenomenal outlet for our youth. And then we have two great programs, though. We also have JBO, which is another league. And so our JBO American senior team, 7th and 8th graders, they just won for the 5th time in a row their city league. So they are the CC JBA champions. And so they just won that. They played in a tournament this weekend and they just qualified for state also. So our JBO boys will be going on to play in state in Oregon City this next weekend. So our young men are great athletes, they're great kids, and I'm proud of them. So that's what we've been at tournaments those last few weekends. So, and then I'm excited about on the 17th, I'll be able to report back to you guys on the strategic housing plan group that we put together. So that first meeting, I believe, is on the, off the top of my head, I think it's the 17th. So I'll be able to report back about how that's going with our first meeting, which is a really important issue to deal with affordable housing. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. So yes, I would like to welcome the Scouts here, and would a spokesman like to come forward and tell us your troop and your pack, and maybe tell us the names of the people that are visiting us. Have you got a spokesman? Mm-hmm. If you would come to the microphone so everybody can hear you.
My name is Jeff Wire, and I'm the Scoutmaster for Troop 528 here in Wilsonville. We meet at the Community of Hope Lutheran Church here in town. We have tonight Isaiah McIntosh, who is our Senior Patrol Leader for our troop. We have Ian McIlvain, who is the Assistant Senior Patrol Leader, Matthew Wyron, who is an Assistant Senior Patrol Leader, and Ethan Jensen, who is our scribe. Am I right? Yep. And we are here to witness and take notes on a city council meeting so that they can complete their requirement to earn their communication merit badge, which is an Eagle required merit badge, and all of the boys are working hard towards their Eagle rank. So thank you very much for having us.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I would like to mention that there are today only 4 of us sitting up here, and we would like to have 5 of us sitting up here. We have a vacant seat due to a resignation, and we are currently recruiting for someone that would be appointed to the remaining term of the council position that is open, which would run through the end of 2020, I guess, is what that would be. We have had this posted. It's on the city website, and there's a little bit of confusion about the closing date, but I think that we have advertised for the 22nd, it being the closing date, which is a Monday. And so I would encourage anyone that is interested to take a look at that on the city website. And Ms. Vila's here with us. The city recorder is the person who could answer any questions and also receive application paperwork or help out if someone needs a little bit of help on an application for that position. So we are looking forward to having that hopefully a group of applicants that we can have some dialogue with and pick somebody to join us here on the dais. And so that's upcoming soon. I think that will bring us then to consent agenda, where we have quite a robust set of items on for consent approval.
Resolution number 2761, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville acting in its capacity as the local contract review board authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Tyler Technologies, Inc. for ERP replacement project. Resolution number 2762, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville acting in its capacity as the local contract review board, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with L. Yeo Consulting LLC for ERP project management services. Resolution number 2765, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville acting in its capacity as the local contract review board, authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with Knife River Corporation Northwest for construction of Wilsonville Road and Boones Ferry Road street maintenance project.
Thank you. Consent agenda items are pre-published and information is available to the public ahead of time. If they're interested, council does not debate or discuss consent agenda items. They are handled just with an up or down vote. Council may remove individual items from this by request if they want to have discussion about this. So is there anything that council wishes to have removed from consent? If not,
I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
moved and seconded, we approve consent agenda as read, the 3 items. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Bringing us to our public hearings section, starting with the resolution number 2766.
Resolution number 2766, a resolution authorizing a supplemental budget adjustment for fiscal year 2019-20.
So this public hearing is in accordance with state law, and I have statutory language that I need to read together with that. So I will call to order a legislative public hearing with regard to Resolution 2766. Ladies and gentlemen, council will take public testimony tonight in a public hearing format, which will be conducted as follows. First, city staff will present their report. Then we will ask for testimony by proponents, opponents, and those neither in favor nor against the proposed resolution. If you wish to testify, please do complete a speaker card from the counter at the side of the room, pass it forward to the city recorder. When called, come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and make your statement. I do request those providing testimony not repeat testimony already given to council. Simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is entirely sufficient. Ms. Rodecker.
Good evening. So we adopted our budget on June 3rd, and it went into effect July 1st, and July 15th, we have our first supplemental request. So things are hopping around the city. The first thing that came up was the Garden Acres Road contract. I think that was approved by council, or it's been presented already. The road project itself came in on budget, but unfortunately the sewer project and the stormwater project was over the projections. So we need an additional $350,000 for the sewer and $50,000 for the storm system project, and they will be funded respectively by the SDCs. The second one that came up was for our Frog Pond area plan. According to the plan, we will reimburse developers who complete projects for us as we receive funding to receive the actual fee. We have received 2 requests already, totaling almost $300,000. Unfortunately, we don't have enough money to pay for all of it, but we will soon. We have $283,000 received already. So we are requesting for the full $300,000. I think it's $191,000 and some change, and we will pay. It was first come, first serve, so we'll pay one, and then as soon as we collect the extra funding from the fee, that will reimburse the second. And those are the 2 items that we have.
So those fees are collected as each house permit is taken out from the city to construct a new house. They pay a fee, and we collect those fees, and they will be used to pay this reimbursement for new infrastructure that
Correct.
the builders have put in at the same time.
On our behalf, instead of us
On behalf of the city, right.
Yes.
Not just for the use of the house itself, but for the overall system beyond that. Okay.
For conduit and vaults were installed.
All right, and the construction cost issue is something we're facing on an ongoing basis. It's a very competitive market right now for construction services, and the bids are coming in higher than we might have hoped they would. In several cases, we probably will not see a change in that for a little while. But it is a reality. As we move forward and the city continues to grow, we have to, keep moving forward, or we'll be well behind where we need to be. So therein is the reason for the supplemental budget adjustment. Any other questions for staff? If not, I, at this point, will receive testimony by any member of the public that would like to comment one way or the other. Is there any member that would like to speak on the supplemental budget adjustments? I am seeing no one anxious to do so. So at this point, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask the council, what is your pleasure with regard to resolution number 2766?
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 2766.
Thank you. Is there moved and seconded that we approve resolution 2766? Discussion, questions? All cleared, everybody? Okay, I will call for the vote then. All in favor of the motion to approve resolution 2766, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 4-0. Bringing us to our next public hearing, ordinance number 837.
Ordinance number 837, an ordinance of the City of Wilsonville amending Wilsonville Code Sections 8.010 and 4.179.
And here again, this is a formal legislative public hearing, and I need to read the statutory language. So I will call to order the public hearing on ordinance number 837. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council will take public testimony tonight in a public hearing format. The hearing will be conducted as follows. First, city staff will present their information and report. Then we will ask for testimony by proponents, opponents, and those neither in favor nor against the proposed ordinance. If you wish to testify, please complete a speaker card from the counter at the side of the room. Pass it forward to the city recorder. When called, come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and make your statement. I request those providing testimony not repeat testimony already given. Simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is entirely sufficient. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Knapp and Council. I am Amanda Guile-Hinman, Assistant City Attorney, and I have with me Mark Ottenad, who is the Public Affairs Director. Today, we're talking to you about code amendments regarding the Metro Commercial Food Scrap Program. This is the final component for the city's implementation of the Metro mandatory commercial food scrap program. The vast majority of the steps that we need to take for implementation, we are able to handle through amending our administrative rules with regard to our solid waste franchise agreement. This is the one final component that we need to address. So just as a brief overview, we came to council in a work session on May 20th, 2019, and we had representatives both from Metro and Clackamas County to discuss the overarching Metro commercial food scrap program. The impetus for this program is that commercial businesses generate about half of the food waste that gets into our disposal stream, and so this is an effort to eliminate that source. So in July 2018, Metro passed an ordinance to create the mandatory food scrap program, and then adopted administrative rules to clarify both our implementation and then also the specific businesses that will be covered and the phasing of those businesses to be covered. What we're doing today is to address this final administrative rule that I have quoted for you. It's particularly aimed at commercial landlords who have commercial tenants that will become part of this program, and how to address that there's this relationship that exists that we don't necessarily control as the government entity, but we got to make sure that we're doing the best we can to make sure that this program is successful for those commercial tenants. So as the council will see in the proposed language is that we essentially have taken the language that Metro used and inputted that into our code. So the updates for the Wilsonville Code, the majority of the language is in Wilsonville Code 8.010, and that is where as I just mentioned, that we are putting in essentially the same language as Metro. The biggest difference is we're changing it from plural to singular. So we're saying a person or entity that leases or provides space to a covered business as defined in the Metro Administrative Rule must allow or facilitate the provision of food waste collection service for that covered business. And then the reason that we're also amending Wilsonville Code 4.179 is that is the provision in our development code that specifically deals with enclosures when an applicant is going through an approval process. So it's a way to signal to both planning staff and a potential applicant that there may be some additional requirements put on for a new development to handle enclosure, to address enclosures for commercial food scraps. So with that, we are here for a public hearing tonight and then a second reading on August 5th, 2019. And this will become effective 30 days after second reading. Council may recall from the May 20th, 2019 work session that the overall effective date for commercial programs, the commercial program to start, it begins in March of 2020. That's when the first phase of it will begin. So there's a little bit of time for local jurisdictions to get the outreach and education going, which is what Clackamas County is going to be doing on behalf of us, and also for haulers to work out routes and make sure that they know the businesses that are going to be covered in this first phase. And the businesses don't have to be going on beginning of March 2020. It's a phased in even for that time period, but that's really when it kicks off. So with that, that's the presentation. We're happy to answer any questions. Oh, and one thing I will note is Council had asked about public outreach that had been done because that was really done by Metro and Clackamas County. So they were very helpful in sending us a lot of information about the outreach, which is attachment B. And I don't know, Mark, if you want to speak any more on that.
I'll make a few notes. Basically, Metro staff met with 7 Wilsonville businesses starting in 2017, notified 55 additionally. Subsequently, Clackamas County Sustainability has followed up, and currently 11 businesses in Wilsonville already participate voluntarily in a commercial food scraps collection recycling program. Those include Costco, Fred Meyer Safeway, Siemens Mender Graphics, Coffee Creek Correctional Facility, Collins Aerospace, Eaton Corporation, ESS Inc., Swire Coca-Cola, Cafe Yum at McMiniman's Old Church Pub in Wilsonville. As Amanda noted, the rollout occurs in groups over a 3-year period, with Group 1 the largest businesses that are most readily able to accommodate and actually would like to see this kind of program be implemented, and then 2 other groups that follow subsequently, with the smaller businesses taking longer to take time to implement.
Okay, Council, questions? Councilor Lehan.
I can't help but notice I didn't hear on their Cisco. And it would seem to me Cisco is one of our bigger food processors.
Cisco is a food distributor. They don't actually generate waste on site.
You don't think so?
For employees, maybe, for staff, possibly. We can certainly look into that. Yeah, Clackamas County did just send us today, actually, a gigantic list of businesses, much larger than what we'd seen so far. I believe Cisco was on that list.
Yeah.
But not, was it on the first phase or the second phase?
Second or third.
Yeah.
Other questions? So ultimately, I mean, it's not clear. I mean, it sounded like a fairly limited group, 7 Wilsonville discussions, 55 notified. Now you're saying there's a huge list. I mean, you know, what does that imply?
Businesses, for example, senior living facilities that maybe Metro did not initially recognize. Additionally, we've had quite a number of new businesses in Wilsonville, particularly eateries, spring up. I think that would be the main crux, and they've spent more time looking at the list. And I went over the list today. I found a couple businesses that had gone out of business on that list. So it's almost a constant challenge to try to keep databases up to date.
Right.
So the other one to ask about, given our audience, is the schools. So I presume schools have a fair amount of food waste.
Yes, and schools are involved in the rollout also, and in one of the, I forget which group number they participate in.
Councilor West?
Have we seen any undue burden or complaint from this particular segment of our city in the business community that have been just like, this is unreasonable and a hardship?
Not that I'm aware of, not any Wilsonville business who has contacted the city or expressed anything to Metro or county staff that we're aware of.
And then just a health and safety issue because it's rotting food. And the smell and vermin. So are they having to create new enclosures? Are these like airtight? Is this rat-free, like roach-free?
Yeah, so that has been a definite discussion point, and both with Republic Services, our hauler, and Clackamas County. And what we've talked about is one that they are looking at creating a unified type of container. And then also the points that we are making sure in our administrative rules are the pickup times. So making sure that pickups are happening, they need to happen relatively frequently because you can't have rotting food just sitting there.
Yeah.
And then also switching out of containers so containers can be cleaned is really important. So that's something else that's also included in there. And one of the things that's nice about this, that fact that we have some voluntary programs going on is those are issues that we're able to look at right now and make sure that we're addressing them in the administrative rules, which is what we've done. So it's a very large concern that we want to make sure is done correctly. And that's also the nice thing about our administrative rules is that if we see something where it's an issue and it's getting worse, then we can address that more quickly than pretty much any other jurisdiction, which is great.
I'll make one note to that too. Lake Oswego, which is served by Republic Services, our hauler also, adopted a recycling ordinance a couple years ago. They currently have 33 businesses already participating, including 10 schools. So Republic Services has gained a fair amount of knowledge and operational expertise in how to deal with this. And by the time we roll out, we think we'll be in a better position, we hope.
Cool. So where is the food scrap going?
Right now, that's a good question. They're letting it up to the haulers. Now, as it is, Republic Services has a facility at Coffin Butte, which is near Corvallis. And currently, they are taking food scraps to that facility.
Is Metro working on something more geographically accessible than that?
We hope so. So far, the status of that negotiations has not been divulged exactly, other than they're still negotiating.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Thank you very much for the presentation. Here again, we're at a point that we can receive public testimony. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this proposal? I'm seeing nobody anxious to talk again, so I will close the public hearing and ask council, what is your pleasure with regard to ordinance number 837?
I move to approve ordinance number 837 on first reading.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. We approve on first reading. It is a two-reading process. Comment, discussion, perspective?
Sounds good.
Nobody feels the need there? Okay. All right. If that is all that is wanting to be said right now, I will ask for the vote. All in favor of the motion to adopt ordinance 837 on first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you much. That will bring us to our new business section, Resolution 2758.
Resolution number 2758, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville adopting the fiscal year 2019-20 five-year action plan and annual one-year implementation plan for the Wilsonville Tourism Development Strategy and half-year fiscal year 2019-20 tourism promotion and destination marketing service plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mark Ottenden, Public Government Affairs Director, here for the Tourism Promotion Program, we're basically adopting the business plan for the program over the next 1 year, plus a half-year tourism promotion marketing plan. Normally, we would adopt a full-year plan. However, our firm dissolved right before we were going to renew the contract, and so we have solicited proposals and have a good one here, and we will further go out with a new RFP later this summer, seeking a full year's services. Right now, the Tourism Promotion Committee is composed of 7 voting members who have served time, including Jeff Brown, who is the general manager of Hotel Eastland, Darren Harmon, the chair of the committee, who's the general manager of Bullwinkles, Al Levitt, a planning commissioner, a former planning commissioner and bike club coordinator, David Stead, the GM of Langdon Farms, who resigned earlier this year, Brandon Robin, CEO of Oaks Amusement Park, Dave Pearson, who you reappointed earlier. He's the vice chair, executive director of World of Speed, and Beth Price of Holiday Inn Wilsonville. The committee is also advised by ex officio members, including Clackamas County Tourism, Morgan's Mount Hood Territory, Washington County Visitors Association, the Wilsonville Chamber of Commerce with Kevin Foresky O'Malley serving, City of Wilsonville Parks and Recreation Department leadership, and City Councilor Charlotte Lehan. We have an excellent committee. Over the past year, the committee has overseen the dispensation of $45,000 in tourism grant funds, $25,000 from the community grant fund, and $20,000 from the Clackamas County Community Partnership Program. Specifically, the Community Tourism Matching Grant Program provided funds for Fun in the Park this year, Brews for Community, the Wilsonville Arts and Cultural Council, the Wilsonville Rotary Foundation, as well as the Wilsonville Bicycle Events. Additionally, $20,000 was awarded to groups including the Wilsonville Bicycle Events, Me, She, We Run, and the Wilsonville Lacrosse Tournament that occurred in June. The program has focused on branding, including development of a branding guidebook, marketing plans, logos, Explore Wilsonville, with our tagline being a pocket of fun. So the idea is these are pocket trips that are close by. The website has been our primary objective to create explorewilsonville.com that includes information about local events and attractions. The calendar of events is the most popular component of the website. Social media, including Facebook and other forms of outreach, occur regularly, directing traffic to our website and generating leads for us to respond to. Print ads, online ads are placed in both the Travel Oregon, Travel Portland, Oregon's Mount Hood Territory, Sunset Magazine, AAA Via, and other publications that are targeted to our market. These local day-long pocket trips tend to feature Wilsonville as the overnight lodging location. Themed pocket trip itineraries cover a wide range of topics: dining, family, shopping, agriculture, history, things to do inside when the weather is bad, and things to do outside when the weather is good, and other cultural activities. So we have right now 12 pocket trips that are listed on the website, and we could develop more. Here's an example of one of our pocket trip itineraries, a family fun day in Wilsonville. A special project that was conducted over this past year was the visitor profile study. This study has given us significant information about overnight visitors to Wilsonville and where they come from, which is helping us to target our advertising promotion efforts. We also have learned that overnight visitors are more apt to stay in overnight in paid commercial lodging than obviously visiting family and friends. And additionally, we found out that information such as parks are wonderful amenities for visitors as well as for our residents. So good investments that benefit both audiences. A special project to occur over the course of the next year by the Park and Recreation Department includes a special study of a multi-use facility with a potential hotel addition. This project would basically be a multi-use facility that would allow sports tournaments one day and live performances the next in the same facility. Velocity Tourism LLC is the company that we intend to contract with for implementing the marketing plan, which is included in your packet. The expenses are broken out. There's a $100,000 contract over a 6-month period, roughly half of our anticipated budget for the fiscal year. That, in a nutshell, is a summary of the business plan and the marketing plan. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
So council, we can ask staff any questions you have. I do want to make note for anyone who's not familiar but might be listening that the funding of this comes from the hotel, motel.
Transient lodging tax revenues.
Right.
That are generated by visitors.
Right. Anytime someone stays in a hotel, there's a tax, and that funding is coming from that, so it's not coming through our other funding sources. Council, any questions for staff? Not seeing any at this point. A very thorough presentation, and we're, what, about 3 years into this project of having this promotion committee?
That's correct. In May of 2014 was when the council adopted the tourism development strategy. Subsequently thereafter, we impaneled the tourism promotion committee. We then went through an RFP process and selected a vendor to help us with our tourism promotion efforts. We've completed 2 years with that firm. We were going to do a third year, however, that fell through. So, but you are correct in your timing.
Okay, sounds good.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 2758.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, we approve resolution 2758. Any discussion? Only that it seems to be a very robust project that's making quite a bit of headway, so it's quite impressive.
Thank you.
I will ask for the vote then. All in favor of the motion to approve resolution adopt resolution 2758, please say aye.
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 Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Bringing us to resolution 2767.
Resolution number 2767, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Portland General Electric for electricity services under Portland General Electric's electric retail tariff for green energy.
Thank you. Ms. Monahan.
Thank you, Mayor Knapp. Hello, Mayor and Council. I'm Zoe Monahan, Assistant to the City Manager, and with me this evening is Josh Halley, Project Manager for PGE. And this evening we are going to talk a little bit more about the Green Future Impacts program that we discussed a little bit earlier. Again, this is a program that Mr. Halley brought to you in late May. And from that point in time, we've submitted our letter of interest based on what you'd asked us to do. As Mr. Halley noted earlier in work session, in that letter, we had noted that we were interested in up to 55% for the Green Future Impact Program. Additionally, this program, for those that aren't familiar with the Green Tariff Program, is a new renewable energy facility that's not yet been constructed. This facility will be solar and located in Oregon. The $1 per megawatt hour is based on a 15-year agreement. So our current power usage, as we discussed a little bit earlier, but for those that may not be familiar, the basic power mix that we purchase, so our basic power includes 15% renewable energy today. We also purchase clean wind, which is something that was started back in 2015. So in total, currently the city organization as a whole purchases about 23% renewable energy. And with this program, if we were to look at that 55% of the green tariff program, this chart in front of you, going with the colors, the light blue is the basic mix power, the basic power. The dark blue is clean wind, and the green is the green tariff or Green Future Impact Program. So in this table, the green is at 55%. And then as you can see over time, the basic energy mix increases. So as Mr. Halley explained in work session, this number is required to go up. They're required to increase the amount of renewable energy that's provided in their basic mix of power. And so over time that increases. If the city wanted to be at 100% renewable in 2021, when the Green Tariffs program begins, then we would need to increase the amount of clean wind that we purchase today in order to be at 100% renewable at a nearer term than waiting till 2035 when the basic mix would be at 45%, and then with our green tariff at 55%, it would equal 100. So the question for you this evening is really, how renewable does the city want to be, and how much power or how much green future impact, I'm confusing these now, is that correct? Green future impact do we want to purchase? So in front of you is a table of what it would look like with a 55% green tariff. The items in red are what you'll want to focus on. So in the first table on the top, you've got the green tariff at 55% and an increase in clean wind. So this is increase from the bottom graph or table that has the 8% wind. You'll also note that the basic mixed renewable, that number gradually increases in all the tables that you'll see, just because that's the amount that PG is already planning to increase. So the additional annual cost is about $16,000 today, and that will decrease over time in the chart at the top, because you're purchasing less green wind over time. Additionally, we had discussed a few other options upstairs at 50% green tariff, and as you can see, you would just need to increase the amount of clean wind in order to get you to that 100% renewable if you decrease the amount of green future impact. And again, with 30%, the lower amount of green future impact, the need for more clean wind if you want to be at 100% today. These are a few of the cities that are participating with the megawatt hours that they are planning to purchase with this program. There are also a few other cities, Salem, Portland, as well as Washington County and Multnomah County, that are also participating. And then again, these are the questions that we have for you this evening. Mr. Halley, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, thanks for having me, Mayor and councilors. I just want to thank Wilsonville for being a leader in renewable energy space. Your participation in our Clean Wind program for the last 4 years was as a result of a Green Power Challenge we did in Wilsonville, and you've always been supportive of renewables. We are thrilled to have more options to put in front of you that we were able to develop in part through support from cities like Wilsonville, pushing the envelope and looking for a way to continue to evolve our renewable power products. Zoomed out, the difference between, say, this product and the Clean Wind product you're currently purchasing, this will be 100% supplied from a brand new facility located in Oregon. It'll be 100% solar, so it's more local. It is 100% solar, and it's also a third of the price of the Clean Wind program. So we're excited about a lot of aspects of the program, in particular the network of municipalities that have raised their hand to support it, and we would be thrilled to have you guys be a part of that effort. Ultimately, it just comes down to the portion of your mix that you're interested in purchasing, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about that part of it.
So council, any questions about how the system is set up to work and what the options are? The way the resolution is drafted currently, it's saying that the city can purchase 100%, right? And yet we have option 1 and option 2 in the staff report, which I find a little confusing.
We didn't want to presume, so we want to present you options that you could consider.
Is that in the PowerPoint, all the options, right?
Yeah, what you just got upstairs and just now, all the options were laid out, yes.
Tables. The staff report has 2 participative options and 1 option to not go forward with participation in the program. So if we were to adopt the resolution as stated in the packet, we would be exercising option 1, is that correct?
That would be the 55%, right? Yes. Correct.
And if we were to want to do something different than that, we should not adopt resolution 2767 as worded.
As worded, you would have to amend it, correct?
Would have to amend it. Okay, so I just want to try to have council be clear. So, Councilor Lehan.
I just have to, I won't stand in the way of whatever the council wants to do on this, but I have to say what my reservations are. One is I have always had some reservations about wind or about over-reliance on wind because there are so many of them now that you travel down the gorge and get on the other side of the mountains, and it's just miles after miles after miles of those things. And a few of them are kind of pretty on the skyline, and then when you see them never ending, and I don't know what this means, that we're just going to commit to being, you won't be able to see a landscape without them on the eastern side of the gorge. That's a concern. My other concern with wind has always been bird kill, especially of raptors and other large high altitude birds, and I don't know what the amelioration is for that issue, but it bothers me if we present wind as harmless, because everything has a downside. So we're trying to do the least harmful energy that we can, but it's not without impact. And my other concern is the transmission costs, the transmission loss. When we have to move power across a long ways, how much are we losing in the transmission? As opposed to solar that is located right here with the building that it's serving, and you have relatively low transmission cost. And mostly, as I was commenting earlier on the water issue, that the least harmful watt is the one you don't use in the first place. So where is our attendant push on conservation, either from PGE or arising out of our own efforts? Because, I have to think about this when I'm at all these meetings here where you have to bring a sweater or a jacket in the summer in City Hall because it's so cold in here. And so I don't know where that responsibility is amongst all of us to reduce the watts, not just we want to use we get to have all the watts we want as long as they're clean wind or clean solar or clean hydro or whatever you said, that we've got to be leading with conservation, and because that's the cheapest watt, that's the cleanest watt, and certainly the least harmful. But so those are my reservations on these programs that get painted as a little too wonderful. But if everybody wants to go to 100%, I don't think the city of Wilsonville is a big factor one way or the other here. Certainly the most damaging for carbon footprint and all is coal, and we want to move PGE off of that. But it doesn't mean the others come without a cost. So that's my reservation.
Okay, could we ask for a clarification of if the city were to commit to the full 55% of the green tariff, to what extent is that committing to wind?
It's 100% solar. The green tariff program is 100% solar, right?
It is correct, and that is factual. So it's 55% in the green or yellow would be 100% solar, but a piece of option number one being proposed is an increase in the purchase of our clean wind product, which is associated with wind. So that's a fair concern. Councilor, if I may, could I?
And the solar is coming from where?
Clarify option two.
The solar would be coming from Eastern Oregon.
New project for solar.
Can you clarify option two?
Yes, so in your staff report, you have option one and option two. And option two is the same clean wind on the table on the bottom, So this has the green tariff at 55% with clean wind at the 8% that you're currently, that we, the city as an organization, are currently purchasing today.
Right. So 2 keeps clean wind where it's at.
Right. So, and then it would be a gradual increase over time, starting around, I believe it's 83%, and then going up to 100% over the 15-year period as the green tariff increase, or the basic mix increases. Our green tariff purchase would remain at 55%, and then just over time, as the basic mix is required to increase their renewable power within that green mix, we would increase from 83% to 100% renewable energy over that 15-year period.
Councilor West.
I'm torn on this a little bit, a lot for the same reasons that Councilor Lehan all brought up. I absolutely, in the core of my being, believe it, that we have to be good stewards in every opportunity that we have. I know that not just locally, but nationally, a lot of cities have begun the green tariff type of model, especially as Congress's inability to do anything at all and have any meaningful action with renewables and resources lately, that we've seen Boise and Missoula, Montana, and Albuquerque, New Mexico all adopt programs like that, and even locally. I would like it if you could define for everybody watching. I think tariff is a little bit of a trigger word in the media right now. If you could define exactly what that defined green tariff specifically.
Sure. Yeah, so existing or pre-existing renewable products before green tariff concepts started sort of moving across the country. And there's about 7-8 states where you can buy a green tariff now. So it hasn't swept the entire country, but it is the new trend. Existing products like our Clean Wind product enable a customer that wants to purchase renewable energy from an existing facility to do so on either a monthly, annual basis. Typically, you're purchasing renewables on the market based on what's available. So a customer will tell us they want wind, and we'll shop amongst a host of existing wind farms to see who has product available to match to that customer's usage in that given time. So it makes it difficult for us to say with certainty that a product will be supplied from a certain project, a specific finite location for a period of time. So it tends to be somewhat reactive. It also, while very important and not to disparage our Clean Wind product, it does a very good thing. It helps to support an existing wind farm and drives the demand for wind so that more people develop wind. But when you're purchasing the Clean Wind product, you are not able to say that you made the facility that is supplying that product happen, and that your power will be coming from that facility for a certain period of time. And a green tariff enables a customer, such as the city of Wilsonville, to say with certainty that for the next 15 years, we'll be purchasing power from this brand new facility that happened because we chose to make a commitment and buy the output of that facility. The crux in that arrangement is that there is a long-term commitment. So either a 10 or 15-year commitment is very standard within a green tariff world. 10 years is about the lowest term length commitment that you'll see. And really, you can't get a developer to build a project for anything less than a 15-year commitment. And so essentially, it's a group purchasing program where a host of entities band together and use their group purchasing power to build a new wind or solar facility that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
So people cities and municipalities like Wilsonville and these 7 different states and some of the cities I mentioned are subsidizing or paying to help develop specific green sources of energy. Is that correct?
You could use the word subsidize. I would you're essentially committing to purchase the product created by a power plant for 15 years.
And that green source has an additional cost. So out of altruism, we're saying we want to operate in this manner and get our power from this source. So we are willing to pay a higher premium for electricity. Isn't it the exact same electricity that hits the grid as from any other source? Doesn't the electricity just hit the grid and then or are you just subsidizing or helping with those additional tariffs fund like the solar plant, right? Or it all hits the grid, it's electricity, it all turns the lights on the same.
Sure. So you're kind of itching at the concept in physics that electrons won't behave themselves. They don't go where you tell them to. You can't pull an electron out of an outlet and know with any certainty that it came from either a coal plant, a wind farm, or a hydro facility. Once electrons go on the grid, they get all mixed together. And that was a tricky market problem, if you will, in the mid to late 90s, where there was a lot of entities that wanted to develop renewable facilities and a lot of people that wanted to buy renewable power, but there was no way to connect them in the market. And so you're not wrong. When a new solar facility comes online and it puts its power to our grid, all that power goes into the system and essentially is consumed by whoever happens to be using power at that given moment. But what a green tariff makes happen is a solar facility, it is adding a facility to the grid that would not have been there otherwise. And because the facility will be on PGE's grid and that power is delivered to us, essentially the way the product is constructed and the way the rate is constructed per our Public Utility Commission guidelines, they essentially stepped in and said, if you want to offer this, the customers participating need to pay the full freight of bringing this to market. Their primary concern was cross-subsidization, that, say, low-income residential customers may end up paying more to bring a facility online that a big company or city is taking credit for. And so the rate construction was very carefully done to avoid that type of concept. And essentially, we're taking the power from the facility, putting it onto our grid. You are buying that power, even though that power is not, you can't say it's being delivered to your end point. It is the product that you are paying for when you pay your power bill. So that's the best way I can describe that. You're not incorrect in your thinking, but I think the best way to look at it is it changes where Wilsonville is purchasing its power. It changes where Wilsonville is demonstrating with its dollars where it thinks power should come from, and what essentially the people of Wilsonville, what type of power does Wilsonville want? Ultimately, PGE is here to provide options to enable you to achieve your sustainability goals and to match what you're seeing from your constituents, which is currently a very strong, high level of support. I believe we're up over 20% of our residential customers in the city of Wilsonville are currently purchasing renewable power on their own by spending more money on their power bill. So that's something that we and you have seen from your constituents is something they support. So.
Councilor Lehan.
So if we're investing over the next 10 or 15 years in a power plant of some sort, solar, wind, or anything else in Eastern Oregon, and then transmitting it over here, why wouldn't we want to know if we could invest a similar amount over 10 or 15 years on a solar plant on our roof? Because we have quite a bit of flat roof right here with no forests and 3 stories up there. So how would we, and we wouldn't have to transmit it anywhere or lose anything on the way. How do we not know that? How do we have done that analysis? Or I don't know how to do that analysis. Is that not an option for us that we would invest in our own power plant?
Rooftop solar is an option that's viable for all Oregonians at one level or another. There are variant resources in different areas of the state. I think we're probably all aware of that to some degree or another from the state of the weather. Putting it into scientific terms, we look at it in the solar industry in numbers. The capacity factor that you enjoy tells you what percentage of available sunlight are you collecting at that site. The capacity factor in the Willamette Valley, and I would assume here in Wilsonville, is typically about 12.5%. The capacity factor in Eastern Oregon is typically around 29%. So you're getting more than double the energy for the same dollars invested by building solar east of the mountains. You're also faced with less land use issues, which are something
we don't have not on our roof.
To look at the scale that we're looking at, rooftop solar is viable, but certainly more expensive. You're looking at roof fixtures. I've worked in the residential solar industry and have sold and know a lot of people that have rooftop solar. it's not about rooftop being necessarily bad, but there are additional costs to do rooftop versus ground mount. And there's typically upgrades to buildings that are required in order to have it happen. So it's not a simple analysis. You'd have to do it on a site-by-site basis. It's absolutely something that the city could pursue. I can promise you it's not going to be as cost-effective right out of the gate as spending $15,800 a year. It's not going to come close.
I'm talking about over the 15 years.
Sure.
And beyond, but I don't know. I have no idea, so. But it seems like a reasonable question to ask before we commit to spending 15 years paying for a plant in Eastern Oregon.
We have looked at it for some of our facilities and it hasn't penciled out up to this point. We are looking at it for SMART when we do a retrofit for that facility as well.
Mm-hmm.
Financially, hasn't penciled out quite yet.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd like to see how what penciled out means compared to a green tariff, both for the 15 years or 10 years or whatever it is we commit to, and then after we've paid it off. Because what happens on this plan after the 15 years? We sign up for another 15 years?
There will be options. That's the end of the term on this agreement. That facility will continue to exist. There's an option to invest in a new facility at that point. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know what the landscape's going to look like in 15 years as far as what our options are.
We'd have to buy a new facility every 15 years, essentially, huh?
That's certainly an option. Our goal as a utility would be to have more options available for you in 15 years than we have today so that you can continue to meet your sustainability goals via a variety of methods.
Councilor Akkerball.
I really appreciate this discussion. This is a good one. I think that we're into something good one now. No, but so, to throw in a couple of my thoughts into this, because I think it is, it's great. I really appreciate Councilor Lehan's comments about conserving energy, at the get-go. And as I kind of pondered that, it made me think, see, now we're going to weave all the topics together. We put solar panels on our roof a number of years ago. And so this is just an example, like very individual, personal example, very small scale, Kristen's house, but I don't know what human behavior will be, but I do know the one sample size of my family's human behavior was when we built had the solar panels put on the house, it was built so that it would be projected to not cover 100% of our energy use. But I think our family found it pretty motivating to have solar panels right up on our house because all of a sudden we were conserving more. We didn't want to leave lights on upstairs if we're all downstairs. Because I think it's kind of, maybe if you're eating healthy food, you don't overeat as much. It's kind of, you feel like you're doing something good for yourself and you're mindful in all new ways as well, in addition. I don't know that everybody will behave that way or act that way, but I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic. I think this could be an opportunity to, make a statement and say, we have made this decision to use 100% renewable. I would be interested in that and use it as hopefully a motivation for residents all over the city to turn off the light if you're not in that room and, make steps because we're all choosing to do something good. Join us in choosing to do something healthy. Join us in, and then if we zoom out in the broader term, the solar, all the way over in Eastern Oregon, but we can think about it in perspective of just Wilsonville and what can we do in Wilsonville and can we put solar panels up on our public buildings in Wilsonville. But also there's some cities, some communities, some areas where that might not be an option for them and saying, hey, we're in on this. We're gonna, be an example, but also, join other communities and do something that's bigger than Wilsonville, just Wilsonville, too, by saying we think it's important to try to move this forward and progress this forward. So it's kind of where my thoughts, I'm a little excited about this and the possibilities of it. But I really appreciate this discussion because I think it's a good, in-depth, thoughtful discussion, and you all are making me think and consider different things too. So that's very valuable. It's a positive moment, I think, for council right now.
Can I say that they're not mutually exclusive? We can do both. And we continue to look at options for solar for our facilities. And I know it comes up at least every other year. We have discussions with PGE, and we brought in consultants from the outside to see how we can make a pencil. So as those costs continue to go down, it'll become more attractive for us to do that, especially when we're building new facilities. We should be looking, our new public works facility, we should be looking for ways to incorporate solar on that. I mentioned the SMART facility as it expands, and the piece of property that we own next to the transfer station down there. So we'll continue to look at those things. It just means that we would be consuming less electricity off the grid and creating some of our own electricity locally for our own facilities. So we can do both.
And if I might add from PG's perspective, a couple of the issues that came up, we care about all these issues quite a lot too, and we'll continue to be a partner and bring concepts and options forward as they become available. We also very strongly feel that the best kilowatt hour is the one not used. It's a huge part of our integrated resource plan as a company. When we look at how we're going to provide the power that's needed by the region 10, 15 years out, a piece of that pie chart is energy not being used through energy efficiency programs that we are aggressively promoting within our service territory. Both through the Energy Trust and the incentives that are available through the Energy Trust that all residents pay in their public purpose charge on their bill every month. Also through programs like our Peak Time Rebates program, which is a new demand response program encouraging people to turn off their thermostats during peak events. We are striving and developing new products to encourage different usage patterns and getting customers to think about when and where they use electricity and whether it's the best time to be using it and the best way to be using it. And we're excited to continue to partner with Wilsonville on all of those types of options as they come up. We also care deeply about EV and mortality when it comes to wind farms. I can tell you our Bigelow wind farm, which is one of the farms in our fleet, I think it's about a 2-year-old stat at this point, but I know the last time I was out there for a visit, they were killing 0.3 birds per turbine per year at that facility. So certainly not no impact, but something that we monitor very strictly.
But most of them are big birds.
The raptors.
They're raptors.
Correct.
Or vultures.
Well, a big piece of that is also looking at an environmental impact assessment before you build a facility is a requirement these days, where it was not back in the 80s. So there's a lot of stories that come out from the California wind farms that were placed in the middle of migration patterns and had a pretty negative impact on the image of the industry. Versus today, you have to do a year environmental impact assessment on a site before you build, looking at migration patterns, any endangered species within the vicinity. All these issues come up when you're trying to develop a wind farm, and it's something that the industry and PGE take very seriously. There is no perfect energy source, as you were mentioning. Every source has its downside, but it's really about choosing the best options out of the choices that we have and the least impactful. And we feel that our customers are right when they choose renewables as the least impactful, and we're going to continue to develop products that help to meet those needs and their demands.
So I would like to offer one other piece to the discussion that hasn't been mentioned, and that is the national climate assessment that says that the rate of change has to be addressed within the next 10 to 12 years, or we are going to have much bigger problems than we otherwise would. In that context, I do not feel good about saying that we're willing to not be renewable till 2035. I mean, that's one of the things we would be saying is we can put it off that long and not feel responsible to be doing our part with renewables. And I agree that all renewables have some downside, and those are concerns. I'm hopeful that technologies will continue to evolve and opportunities to upgrade to better renewables will continue to happen in significant ways over the next decade. But personally, I don't think that I would feel good about waiting until 2035 to achieve 100% renewable use for the city. I think that showing some level of leadership for the community is something the city should entertain doing, and I hope that the council will factor that in. Councilor West.
Thank you. Another, not that we've already talked about the birds, but bats are significantly infected by the wind turbines too. And you're right, they all have an impact. This has a financial impact. And even if we wait till 2035 to adopt this, this is much more significant than we're paying now. We already do quite a bit in renewables in what we purchase for our clean wind and clean portfolio. I just have the sticking point. Maybe you can help me get past this. It just, if it made sense market-based, and I guess unless you're creating the market and convincing us to build your guys' new power plant, we are paying significantly more to build PGE's new solar plant. That's us for our own policy reasons to decide to do that. All of us up here deeply care about the environment and deeply care about being good stewards of where we live in the earth. But that's what we're doing. We are paying more so PGE can build a power plant. Am I misunderstanding that?
It's easy to come to that perception, but it's not actually the case. So we would be entering into a power purchase agreement with a renewable developer. We've essentially gone through a list of developers and a whole host of projects, identified the most cost-effective and best candidate to build that facility. Back to the PUC, they've essentially said, if you want to offer a product like this, fantastic, but the customers participating in it need to pay the full freight to bring it to market. So the model that they were comfortable with and that we've engaged in is to essentially find a developer. They will build and own the asset. We are entering into a long-term power purchase agreement as PGE to buy the full output of the facility on behalf of the subscribers that decide to participate. We then break that commitment up into smaller commitments to the city of Wilsonville and the host of 15 other cities and municipalities that are participating. So it is not a PGE power plant. It is not one that is entering into rate base or that will make a profit off of building. It is really, truly the result of responding to be perfectly honest, a city in our service territory that passed a very leadership-oriented climate resolution demanding that their renewable power options evolve. And we had at PGE an opportunity to answer that call and develop a product so that we could continue to be seen as the solution, to be seen as a leader here in this area and make sure that we're a part of the solution that we see from some of the cities in our service territory that are really pushing that result. So it was a very reactive, to be totally honest, development on our part. We were hearing from our customers that they needed a product like this in order to continue to feel good about where they were at from a sustainability standpoint. So we're excited to develop it for them. But the clarification there is, I think, important.
Just to the rest of the council, I remember in our little sticky exercise on the goal setting weekend, putting solar on top of our city buildings it wasn't voted on as a goal, but I know we just brought it up. But I know it's a little tangential. I know it's not the same thing, but I personally don't. We already are above. Oregon's already leading on the issue, and the requirement and the mandate by law by 35 is already exceptionally higher than the rest of the country. And then us agreeing to go to 100% by 35 and spending that much more money is already going above and beyond even that. I won't stand in the council's way, though I hold a lot of the same kind of concerns as Councilor Lehan. but I like the timeline presented currently. And then I also like the idea of us looking at that secondary option potentially of seeing what it would be like to offset some of our costs by putting solar on as many of our buildings as possible, and generating our own power and taking care of that here. I know that you've looked at that previously, but I think that that would be a really neat thing to do also.
So what are we committing to here? Let's say we went to 100%, whenever, right away, or whenever that is. That's for the costs of what? This building, all of the buildings of the city?
If we went 100% renewable, it would be for all of our separate accounts.
And so then where would?
That's that total 1.29 million that we're paying right now to PGE for power. If we went 100%, we would be going 100% renewable power, right?
You'd be paying an additional 13,000 on top of that 1.2 million.
Additional 13 minus the 3,000 that we're paying?
13 is the 16 minus the 3.
Got it, okay.
So where would be our incentive to ever do our own solar?
Right.
What building would we ever put it on?
What building?
Yeah, where would, if it's covering all of our, where would be our incentive to do our own solar?
Well, the incentive is that we would not be paying for power that we're currently paying for, so we would be reducing our bottom line off the top.
Yeah, but we're committed for 15 years to pay for that.
To clarify, you're paying $1 per megawatt hour premium on top of the basic service rate that you're paying. So by reducing your usage and putting solar on your roof, you'd be eliminating 95% of the cost of the energy produced by that solar facility. So the benefit would absolutely still be there. And again, rooftop solar is an excellent thing to pursue as a city. You should put it on every building that you build. The economies of scale on what is looking like a 150 megawatt solar facility in Eastern Oregon, by participating, think about it as a group purchasing program where you're gaining the benefit of banding together with other cities. Instead of building a couple of 3 to 10 to 20 kilowatt systems on small buildings, each of which will have an interconnect, each of which will need to be mounted to the roof. Each comes with its own permitting and issues there. You're essentially eliminating a lot of those sort of repeated expenses when you're breaking up a facility up into a bunch of small roofs by not only putting that all in one spot, but then banding together with a bunch of much larger entities and enjoying the purchasing power of those entities to be able to participate in a product like this. That's the reason that this is $1 per megawatt hour premium. It is the cheapest renewable power product that we have ever offered and maybe the cheapest we ever offer.
So how many acres of solar is this?
1 megawatt is typically 2 acres, is generally the rule of thumb.
So what's this solar plant that you're building in Eastern Oregon is how many acres?
It's going to be somewhere between 100 and 150 megawatts. So times 2, you'd be looking at 200 to 300 acres. Of which Wilsonville's portion would be, I need to get out my computer real quick.
It's a lot of land.
Huh?
It's a lot of land.
It's a lot of land.
What type of land is it being built on, the solar?
Private land in Eastern Oregon. And just to follow that.
Flat, deserty.
Correct. You guys, so the city of Wilsonville at the purchase at 55% would be accounting for 1.3 megawatts of that facility. So essentially
3 acres.
3 acres.
What do you guys want to do? Him and haw.
So we're going to have to make a decision one way or the other here.
Make a motion to get into discussion.
That would be the formal way to do it, would be to make a motion and then have discussion on the question.
Unless you have further questions of staff.
I move to approve resolution number 2767.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we approve 2767 as drafted. That would mean 100% option, which is the first column up here on the table, I believe, unless the council were to modify that in some way. So, council, is that the option you wish to proceed with?
You were thinking more aggressive, and I was just kind of wondering what that would look like, what you thought.
That's the most aggressive option that's up here.
Well,
The option in the resolution is gets you to 100% renewable.
right. And then you said we'd have to do an amendment if we wanted to change it to be
make
more
that
aggressive.
No, to make it less.
Less aggressive.
Less than
Gave you
100%.
3 options in the staff report to consider if you didn't like the option
Okay.
in the resolution.
Okay.
And don't be limited by those. You can come up with other options. And one option is to not participate in the program. So we didn't want to presume here because this is really more of a policy statement to the city council. It's not really a staff-driven decision. This is, we tried to give you some options and give you the kind of backbones of the program. And really it's up for you all to decide what direction you want to go. Option 2 does not require more wind.
Right, option 1, you're buying more wind.
Right. Option 2 keeps us where we're at with wind.
Correct.
Option 1, we're ratcheting up our wind, which will slowly wind down as we move out into the future because of your mandate to be at 45% renewables by 2035.
Correct.
Okay.
It's worth knowing as well, just to throw out there for context, the green tariff purchase, once you make that commitment, it's firm and binding for 15 years. The clean wind product, you can cancel or change your purchase amount anytime you like with 30 days notice. So there's a significant difference in the flexibility of those two products. And so consider that as you're making your decision.
So does wind decrease as we increase our solar usage?
Wind would decrease as the percent of your basic mix that's required by law to be renewable increases over the next 15 years.
Okay.
But wind is part of that renewable mix.
It is.
Always.
Yes,
Okay.
always.
Considered a renewable.
It's one of the 5.
It is, and we
Yeah.
own multiple wind farms that contribute to that portion. So yes, it will always have wind.
Okay.
Any other discussion requested? We have a motion and a second on the floor.
Oh, discussion? Yeah,
Discussion? Yes, Councilor Akeball.
discussion. Again, I feel excited about this. I see it as an opportunity to be 100% renewable. And I think that in concert, we should continue to pursue looking at solar panels on buildings and see if, if that pencils out, if that works for us, and keep at that. And I don't view it as, okay, check, box, let's not think about this at all anymore. This should continue to be top of mind and looking at different innovations and what can we do. And if we have a solar panel on smart building and it's serving the energy needs within that building, then we're not buying energy, correct? from PGE here, right? So then the need goes down, and that's a great thing. So I don't see this as hindering our ability to pursue something like solar panels on buildings. And in fact, I think we'd encourage that. And I think that, we have some young people in our audience, and I think it's a big deal. These decisions that we make, this is an opportunity for us to make a decision that can benefit the future generations too. So, it's not all just parking, and planning parks or library programs or whatever, I mean, sometimes you get to make a big impact. And I see this as an opportunity where we can stand up and try to make a bigger impact.
Councilor Lehan.
Well, I will vote for this motion, but I won't be enthusiastic about it. I'll just say I have, as I said before, I have grave reservations, but I will vote for it because it's better than coal, and that is PGE's responsibility, not just that other people have pushed you to do this. PGE's responsibility is to get rid of that coal plant. And so they do have a piece in this. And I've sat here for many years and heard PGE's presentations, and they come to do presentations about selling us more power or selling us more expensive power or greener power or some sort of power, but I'm the only one who ever brings up the conservation thing. PGE never comes to bring that up. And unless I say it first, it never comes forward from PGE. So that's always a disappointment of mine, because like Councilor Akkerval, I think we need to be aggressive about solar plants on our own buildings, on our own flat top roofs, of which we have many, and that don't take up any land anywhere. And I think we need to be aggressive about conservation. And like you said, it is not a matter of checking off the box and saying now we are good environmental stewards because we checked off the 100% deal, because that's that just isn't true.
Well, I would like to say that I appreciate the thoughtfulness of a lot of the discussion here. I think it is an important topic. I don't think it is a one solution and we're done thing at all. I think the technologies continue to evolve. I think the world around us is evolving. I think we need to try to keep figuring out ways to do better, and I think the urgency of figuring that out is greater than we recognized a few years ago. So it's not a perfect solution. I think it's better than what we're doing now, and therefore I am in support of this. I hope that we have opportunities and will seek opportunities to find other ways to do better as we go forward also. And that there's no resting on our laurels. At the same time, I think we should do this. Councilor West, comment?
I think it's really interesting and amazing how we all come from such different backgrounds and ideologies and philosophies, but we all love Oregon, and making sure we take care of Oregon is who we are. It's in our DNA. And we all have different ideas and ways to go about that, but I'm going to vote for this. Somewhat reluctantly, and for some of the many same concerns that Councilor Lehan has. And then I also understand that it is an additional expense on Wilsonville citizens and taxpayers, that we are voting that us as a city as a whole are saying that we want to make this a priority. And it's going to cost our taxpayers something a little bit more to do that something extra. But I think that that's what they'd want us to do. I think if I went door to door and asked that question, that the majority of our citizens would want us to take that type of attitude. And so for that, I'm going to go ahead and support this.
Okay, are we ready to vote then? I will call for the vote on the motion to approve Resolution 2767. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Passes 4-0, and thank you for all the discussion. That is all of the official business. City Manager, anything additional?
Just one item of note, Mayor. You all probably know this already, but I'll read the budget note that a lot of hard work went into lobbying the state legislature for some money to study the Boone Bridge bottleneck, and we were somewhat successful. And the budget note and the Christmas tree bill reads as follows. The Department of Transportation shall study the I-5 Boone Bridge project and provide an estimate of the cost to complete the project. The department shall report back to the Joint Committee on Ways and Means and the Joint Committee on Transportation no later than February 1, 2021. So congratulations to council and to our lobbyists for getting that into the last bill to be signed by the governor. What that means going forward is that it'll become more of a priority than it has been in the past. So.
Well, it'll have to. I can't imagine another 2 years of legislators driving to Salem in the traffic will not cause it to be, but we'll have to see.
It seems to be a daily occurrence anymore.
Yes. Legal business, anything? All right. If there's nothing further for the council tonight, then I will call us adjourned at 9:10. Thank you, one and all.